What's going on, guys? Today I wanted to bring you another one of my 2014 NAWCQ hat format deck profiles. Obviously, you could tell by the thumbnail and the title that this is going to be a Sylvan deck profile. This is a deck that is considered one of the top decks in hat format. It's definitely a fan favorite. I know so many people who love this deck, and it's so cool in its play style. It's very different from a lot of other decks. And one thing before I get started, there are not a lot of solid deck profiles on this, and what I mean by that is there's a lot of variation in the way you play this deck. So a lot of people will just go with Patrick Hoban's top list that he played back in the day, but from modern hat format tournaments, there's been some changes, and even those, there's no consistent builds. So I'll kind of go over what I consider to be standard in it, as well as my personal choices and things like that. But without further ado, let's get started on this deck profile. One thing to note, for Sylvans, they're based on excavating cards, which pretty much each will have its own effect when excavated, so keep that in mind when I say its excavated effect. So starting off, we have 3 copies of Sylvan Hermitry. This one allows you once per turn, soft once per turn, to excavate the top card of your deck, and if it's a plant monster, you send it to the graveyard, and if you do, you draw a card. That's its main effect. For its summon, or I guess while it's summoned. And then its excavated effect is if it's excavated, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and place them on the top in any order. So this is your big boss monster in a sense in the main. It's a level 8, which will be important later on. After that, 3 copies of Sylvan Sage Koya. If a Sylvan monster is sent to the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this, and it has the effect that once per turn, you can excavate the top card of your deck, similar to the other one. And if it's a plant, send it to the graveyard. If not, put it on the bottom of the deck. No other effect there. And then its effect is if it is excavated and sent to the graveyard, or just excavated, you can target a Sylvan spell or trap in your graveyard and add it to your hand. This is a level 7 that will be kind of relevant since this deck is based a lot on 7s and 8s. It also has a lot of synchro plays, but we'll get into that later. After that, I chose to play 2 copies of Martial Leaf. Some builds will only play 1 of this. From testing, I found I wanted more cards that on turn 1 can excavate. So this was kind of one of your better ones. So it has the effect that you can choose a number 1 or 2, excavate that amount of cards, similar to the other ones. And then its excavated effect is if it's excavated, you can target a monster on the field and destroy it. So really good removal as well, which is cool. After that, 2 copies of Sylvan Princess Sprout. You contribute it to excavate the top card of your deck, or if it's excavated, you can special summon it and make its attribute go from any number from 1 till 8. So basically, you know, if you had the Sage Koya, you can make it a 7 and then make a rank 7. If you wanted to make it an 8 and go for a rank 8, you can do that. Really cool card, definitely a very solid card. After that, 2 Koma Shrumo. When it's flipped face up, you can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, send any plants to grave, similar, like I said, with the other Sylvans, being able to excavate and send. It's a little bit slow, so usually you're using it more for its secondary effect, which is basically if it's excavated, you can pop a spell or trap card. Lastly, I chose to play 1 Sylvan Peacekeeper. Not a lot of people play this. There's a few lists that do, but I found in testing, again, it's another card that if I have to normal summon to get at least the smallest amount of excavating, I can, as this also has the effect if it's normal or special summon, I can just excavate 1. The other use, though, is if it's excavated, I can target a plant in the grave and special summon it. So this comes up with all the Sylvans you've seen so far, as well as being able to summon back kind of one of your best normal summonable plant monsters, which we'll get to next after this. So I do find this really good. Some people will go with Cherub Sprout, I believe it's called. I just like this better for extension reasons. That's it for the Sylvans. For the generic plants, 2 copies of Lone Fire Blossom. This is the card I was referring to, that it's the best card. If you see this plus Soul Charge, or usually even just this, it's so good. Just being able to tutor these out for other cards, being able to thin the deck, just the best generic card. 1 copy of Spore as a tuner. It can also level modulate and summon itself back. Really good for synchro plays, as well as extension, because you can make it all different levels depending on what you need at the time. After that, 2 copies of Curry Bandit. This is, your generic excavate card. The reason I only play 2 over 3 is it's more of a card where you're just sort of summoning it and passing turn. So, like, there are hands where that might be necessary, because there are hands, where you want a turn of setup. But seeing this and Lone Fire Blossom in your hand kind of puts you in a weird position of which do you want to go for your turn 1 or your turn 3 play. So, a lot of builds do choose to play 2, and I think that's correct. You could technically play 3 and cut something else, but it's really up to just testing what you like. And the last monster is Blaster, which basically a lot of your other ones, or I should just say the Hermitry is a fire, so you can use that. It's also a 7, so Sage Koya plus this can make a rank 7. You can use the Spore and make level 8 synchros. Just a good card, or you can use it for its hand effect to discard this and a Hermitry, which can be relevant to pop a card. Really, really solid. After that, we do play spells. This is a very fast-paced deck, or at least you try to make it. So 3 Upstart Goblin to get into your combo pieces. 3 copies of Soul Charge, because, like I said, opening Lone Fire plus this, usually you're just winning the game. It just gives you so many monsters, so much advantage, puts up great boards. So that's there. And next is probably the best card in the deck, other than maybe, I guess you could say, Lone Fire, and that is Sylvan Charity. This card does everything. Pretty much, it's similar to Graceful Charity in a sense. You can draw 3 cards, then if you have a Sylvan card in your hand, reveal 2 cards from your hand, including a Sylvan, place them on the top of the deck in any order, so you choose the order too. Otherwise, you reveal your entire hand and place it on the top of the deck in any order, and you can only activate it once per turn. So the crazy thing with this is just, for example, if you have Lone Fire, you Lone Fire into whatever you need, activate this, draw, whatever, and then say usually you would summon something like a Hermitry, which will then be able to excavate the top card, whatever that might be. For example, in that Lone Fire case, that's a good position where the Peacekeeper comes up. So you could, for example, if you have Peacekeeper, put it on top of the deck, use the Hermitry, send it, draw a card, the Peacekeeper will summon back your Lone Fire, and you can keep going. It's just a really cool thing, and it also allows you to cycle some cards. For example, if you see some cards you'd rather have still in deck, it allows you to put those back. Next, 2 Mount Sylvania, and I'll also show this, 2 Terraforming to search them. Mount Sylvania, basically, you can send a plant monster from your face-up field or hand to the graveyard, and then you can choose a Sylvan card, keep in mind card, and place it on top of your deck, so you can basically stack your deck for whatever piece you need. This can also stack the Sylvan Charity, so if you stack the Charity and have Upstart, you can basically just add the Charity, which is really cool, and then during the end phase of your opponent's turn, you can also excavate the top card, and either, if it's a plant, you send it to the graveyard, otherwise you can place it on either the top or bottom, so, kind of get whatever you need there. Next, 3 copies of Miracle Fertilizer. If you can't normal summon the turn you use this, but you basically just special summon any plant from your grave. Another way to turbo out your stuff, for example, if you have the field spell, you can discard, say, a big Sylvan, stack your deck, activate this, summon the Sylvan back, and send it. So really, really cool. And lastly, some more spells. 1 Book of Moon, 1 Foolish, and 2 MST. MSTs are really flex spots. Some people will choose Forbidden Lance just to protect your big things. I can definitely see that. I've tried it. I like it. So that's why I say it's kind of up to what you want. At the current moment, I am just playing these, and it has been really helpful, but I might go back and forth. There's also 1 trap card, which is 1 copy of Vanity's Emptiness. You do a lot of drawing, obviously, in this deck, so you can usually find this. In theory, what you could do is drop the MSTs for, say, another Emptiness and something else. A lot of builds, for some reason, will also play 1 Lance, so you could even go like 1 Lance and 1 more Emptiness, or just drop these for more Emptiness. Mostly because you can also start a Spark Lock with this, similar to the Key Beetle Lock in Infernity and stuff. So that's, again, another preference. I've seen some builds play 3 of this, some play 2, some play 1, some play none. So really just up to your play style. That is it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra. 1 Hieratic Sun Dragon, pop monsters. 1 Felgrand. Some builds will play 2. If you want to play 2, go for it. It definitely has come up, but I also like having some of the options of other things. But definitely, if you like this card, go for another. I would suggest finding room for it if possible. 1 Alsay lets you declare any card in the game, excavate the top card, and then you're able to, if it's called correctly, add the card to hand. If not, it goes to grave. And then its second effect, if a card goes to grave, you can detach a material and non-targeting shuffle a card on the field. So really, really strong. A lot of times you'll just call some random card that's irrelevant, knowing that it's not going to be the top card, just so you can get that effect. The last 8 is Giant Grinder, popping more monsters, and if there's Xyz, doing some burn damage. Moving on to the 7s, 2 copies of Aurea. You could technically cut one of these for the second Felgrand, but this has a cool effect, being able to get rid of a plant and then looking at that many cards on the top of your deck and rearranging them in any order, and then you can detach a material, choose a number from 1 till 3, and I believe it's Excavate or Reveal. I think it's Excavate, I'm sure. And you're able to return cards to the deck, I believe. Sorry, it's been a while since I read this card specifically. Yeah, excavate that many, and then up to the number of plants, you return that many cards on the field to the hand. So that is really cool too, because usually you'll know exactly what you're sending, or excavating for that matter, and then you can also trigger your other Sylvans. 1 Draco Sack, just a really solid card. Same with Big Eye, being able to steal opponents' monsters. I play Mechwhip Engineer. Some people will choose to play Alucard. I personally just like this card because since this build is a little more turbo heavy, being able to stall kind of for a turn in order to get more setup or just protect your other things is really cool. And then next, Synchros. 1 Star Eater, you can make it really, really easily, just a big body. Leo as a 10 option. This card is really hard to out, I guess unless you're playing against artifact decks, but other than that, sometimes your opponent just can't out this. Scrap Dragon, pop cards, really good. Colossal Fighter. This is kind of a flex spot. Some people won't play this. I personally, I like it, but I would maybe consider cutting this or something else in the extra for a Armory Arm, because it does come up. So consider playing that. Stardust Spark. Some people will play Stardust Spark and regular Stardust. So this could also be swapped out for regular Stardust if you want. Again, this just helps with protecting your stuff, whether that be your field spell, your monsters, or doing the Vanity's Lock I talked about. And lastly, Black Rose, which, since there's a lot of plants in this deck, you can actually take advantage of the second effect, making a card's attack 0. So that's really cool too. But again, that's just my opinion on this deck specifically. There's a ton of different builds, so definitely find the one that you like the best. This one is pretty close to standard in a sense, but again, there's no real standard for it. If you have questions about side decking for this deck specifically, whether that's siding patterns, siding options, cool tech cards, or anything like that, let me know in the comment section. Maybe I'll make a video on that. Or if you want to see gameplay, let me know as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, I really do appreciate if you drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video.